Hello, I'm Mark Laaser. I'm the president of Faithful and True, and we're excited about this opportunity to create a brief video explanation of our workshop ministry for men here at Faithful and True. With me today is Greg Miller, and I'll let him introduce himself.
I'm Greg, and I am the director of the men's workshops here at Faithful and True. And we do a men's workshop every month, and most of them are here in Eden Prairie at the Faithful and True Center. And it's located outside of Minneapolis, about 20 minutes from the airport. And so each month we provide an opportunity for men to come here for a 3-day experience, because what we've seen over the years is it is very helpful to have a very intentional, directed effort whenever you're wanting to make a significant life change.
I think it's important to know that men come here from all over the country, and in some cases the world, and you're likely to run into people from coast to coast here. And I think a lot of men worry about anonymity and things like that. What would you have to say about that?
Yeah, because men are coming from all over the country, there are times where you might come across someone that you know, but even in that, there's safety. That as you walk through the door of Faithful and True, you're really stepping across a threshold of vulnerability. And I think that all of the men who are here are aware of that. And there's a great safety that is created by the men themselves. Knowing that there's risk in just naming that this is an issue in your life and that you're wanting to look at the issue of sexual chaos and sexual addiction, just by participating in the workshop, you're naming that this is an issue, and I think by doing that, you're also creating safety.
I think one last important thing before we get into the 10 most frequently asked questions about the workshop would be for those thinking about coming to know that, the workshop is led by men who have faced this problem themselves, and in my case, your case, struggled with this at the level of an addiction and have overcome that addiction. And in my case, I've been sober for 26 plus years, and you can speak for yourself.
Yeah, that my journey of recovery started 7.5 years ago, and have been sober since the beginning. And one of the things also that I think is important is that we recognize that everybody's story is different, every recovery is different, yet there are some general principles that are true for all of us. And one of the foundational principles is the idea that first we've got to stop the behavior. And one of the things that we deal with at the workshop is giving some specific instructions and directions about how to do that, but also recognizing that if we don't get to the deeper issues, that what really motivated the acting out, then we'll always struggle maintaining sobriety. So here at Faithful and True, you're going to get a two-point approach where we're going to look at the behavior, and we're also going to be looking at what was driving the behavior.
Yeah, we use the word sobriety quite often, which is a word that addicts would understand. And I think for any men thinking about coming, that they may think I'm not necessarily an addict, but I have committed some form of sexual infidelity. Maybe the word purity or becoming the man that God calls you to be applies. It's a good segue into our first question. And by the way, this list has been assembled by those here at the center that answer our phones, and these are our 10 most frequently asked questions about the workshop. So are you ready? We're just going to launch into it. I'm going to give you the first chance to answer it. Okay. Number 1, how do I know the workshop is a good fit for me?
Well, one of the things when I do talk to men about the workshop that I communicate is the workshop is for any man who is experiencing chaos and pain in their lives because of choices that they've made sexually. And they also recognize that on their own, they're not able to stop the behavior. One of the things that we talk about, it's not so much that you can't stop the behavior, it's that you can't stay stopped. So you can look back over your story and you can see in whatever the acting out behavior was that it's gone on over a period of time, and it's something that you continue to return to. And it's also at a level that it's creating pain for you, for your family, and it's creating chaos also.
It's kind of a segue into the second question, which is, I don't think I'm a sex addict. Would it still be appropriate for me to attend? And maybe I lied earlier. I'll start with this one. I do think there's a lot of men who come, and when they first get here, they really struggle with the word addiction, and maybe even that word or being labeled with that word has historically kept them away from any kind of treatment for this. And I think it's important for all of you to know that, we don't get too hung up about words and labels here, diagnostic, terms and phrases. This workshop is a good fit for all of those who have done behaviors that they're ashamed about, that they're not happy with, that have created chaos and damage in their lives. And at some level, they know that they have to get some help to deal with that and perhaps change. And on the other hand, there will be a lot of men who completely identify with the term addiction, and this workshop is definitely for them because, as we just said, it's led by those of us that know what it's like to get free of an addiction.
Well, and one thing that I would add to that is we very much use the language of recovery. So we do talk about accountability. We talk about creating a program and systems that are going to support you as you're trying to change the behavior.
And we do all of that from a Christian perspective. I think the workshop is a really good combination of some insights and learnings that we have from the 12-step community, from the clinical community started by Dr. Patrick Carnes back in the 1980s, and our biblical understanding of things. And so every day at the workshop starts with a spiritual question. Some of our teachings are referenced around certain scriptures, and in that sense, if you're wanting to come because you're just wanting to learn how to be a man of sexual integrity and purity, we're going to teach you a lot of things about that. I think that's bottom line.
The one thing I would say also is, for both of us, our faith experience was a huge part of our recovery, and our relationship with God was foundational to moving forward. And what is also true is that we want to create a safe space so that wherever you are in your relationship with God, that you can feel safe here. Even though our faith has been important to us, and we're never going to impose that on anyone else. We're never going to expect someone to be where we are. We just want to greet you wherever you are on your own faith journey.
Yeah, I think partly what you're saying is that if you have doubts, if you have questions, if you have anger at God, come and help us rewrite the Book of Lamentations or something. Well, we're not going to impose and hit you over the head with the hammer of certain scriptures. If you'd only pray more and stuff like that, it's a little bit more involved than that. But I think we're for you. We would invite you to bring whatever level of faith you have to the work. Question number 3 gets into a question that maybe a wife would ask. My wife is worried about me staying in a hotel while I'm at the workshop without any accountability. What should I say to her?
Well, one of the things I would say is that we do seek to create accountability once you get here. One of the most powerful parts of the workshop experience is the community of men that is formed while you are here for those 3 days. And so one of the teachings that Mark does on the first day is about creating a team of accountability that can surround you and that can support you on your journey. And so as you leave the first night to go back to the hotel, we're going to encourage you and challenge you to use the resource of the other men that are here to create that accountability.
I think we should explain that, given the fact that a lot of the men do come from other parts of the country and the world, a lot of the men will be staying in the hotel, and a lot of the men will be staying at the same hotel. So it's entirely likely that any of the hotels that we recommend would have 5 to 10 men from the workshop staying there. And so even some of the assignments that we give, we encourage them to come down to the common space where they might be eating breakfast the following morning, to be in fellowship, to not, in other words, to not be alone in their room.
Absolutely. And there are times that a man will choose to come with someone, and it may be their pastor or an accountability partner, or there may be 2 men from the same group who are coming together to the workshop. And there is a support that comes if someone is with you. And there are also opportunities to create a roommate situation, even if you know no one else that is coming. And one of the things that we don't encourage is for a wife to come with a husband, simply because of the nature of the workshop and the amount of time that you are invested here and kind of the work that is asked of you. Sometimes it's helpful to not have that expectation or even a subtle pressure that might come from having your wife staying in the room with you. If accountability is an issue, and that's something that concerns you, we would encourage you then to take the initiative and ask someone to come with you and be with you in the room. One thing that comes up is a lot of times a man will want to know if he's bringing someone, if he can just let that person observe the workshop. And what we've discovered over time is that that's not helpful. So if you bring someone with you, we would invite and ask that they sign up for the workshop and participate with you in that. And if they just want to be with you in the room, there's plenty of stuff to do in the Minneapolis area while you're at the workshop.
Yes, and we have been known to be tour directors. You've already answered question number 4. I just want to make sure. I don't want to be the absent-minded professor here. There are 10 questions.
Yes.
So you just answered question number 4 was about the wife coming. Question number 5, will I have the opportunity for individual one-on-one counseling while I'm at the workshop?
Because of the schedule, there isn't really time for a one-on-one appointment. There are times in the breaks for conversations and asking a specific question. And one of the things that we are able to provide now is a ministry we call the Recovery Room. It begins on Saturday after the workshop ends around 5 o'clock, and then it goes through Sunday morning and ends at 9 a.m. on Sunday. And for those men who might have specific questions, this is a great opportunity for you to get those questions answered. It is a small group experience. It is a process group. So the purpose of this is to allow those men who have come from around the country to really maximize their experience and their time while they're here. So if you are coming with some specific questions about your own journey, your own story, your own recovery, that would be a way for you to be able to address those issues in a group setting.
I think partly what you're saying is that the workshop is formal at one level, but more than that, it's informal at most levels, so that you or I are kind of constantly around. My office is just right across the hall from this room we're actually sitting in now where we do the workshop, and it's not uncommon for the men to buttonhole us, to come into our office and knock on the door and say, do you mind if I ask you a quick question? There will be times where you or I might even discern that we'd like to spend 15 minutes with somebody, and that can happen. But if you're thinking about kind of a one-on-one, classic 50-minute hour, that's not going to happen here at the workshop.
Right.
Number 6, are there any prerequisites required before attending?
What I would say to that is not really.
We hate this answer. We wish there was. Yes, there is one. Read all of my books before you come. No, that's not true.
What we would say is, and I've seen this over and over again, whatever it is that motivates you to get to the workshop, I encourage you to use that motivation. So it might be the encouragement, the challenge, the expectation of a spouse that gets you here. It may be the encouragement of a pastor. There may even be some reluctance on your part to come, but I've seen over and over again when men show up and they have enough openness to be open, really some amazing things can happen. So whatever it is that brings you here, we want to just meet you at that place and support you on your journey. For those men who have been in recovery for a while, many times men come because they're looking for some support or encouragement or even just some energy in their recovery program. We've had men who their lives have had some exposure and some level of explosion within the last week. And we have men who come who've been in recovery for a year and just looking for some additional support. So really, whatever it is or whenever it is that you decide to come to the workshop, we're going to meet you there.
I think that one part is that the guys that have been in recovery for a year and may have even a year of sobriety or purity, they're looking to get re-energized, or they're looking to re-up their commitment to the program. And I would say that's probably the larger majority of guys who are within their first 2 or 3 months of the recovery. I think I should probably, now that I'm reading this list, I should probably tackle the next one. Why is it so expensive? That's number 7. The cost of the workshop are for the staff, basically, in terms of every man here that comes to the workshop will be divided into small groups of 5 or 6 men. Each of those small groups will be led by a therapist or a pastor who has counseling training. and we pay fees to those people. That's some of our expense. I think more so, you almost have to be a business owner to understand the rest of it. That, for us to have the staff that facilitates the workshop, from the people that answer the phone, the people that sign you up, the people that process the money, all of that. The fact that we do the workshops in our own space, and having this space open cost us money. Believe it or not, we've tried to establish a price point, which I know to some people can seem like it's really expensive. I think in the ultimate scheme of things, if you look at comparable stuff out there, we're really kind of on the low end of stuff. But having said that, I know that it's a challenge for the average guy coming, and we would just like you to know that we're not here trying to gouge people or get rich. That's certainly not going on. That there are a lot of hidden expenses to the workshop that the average person wouldn't be aware of.
Well, and one way to look at it is the workshop begins way before you get to the workshop. And there are expenses that go along with that, whether it's the maintaining of a website or the publicity that might go into this. However it is that you found out about it through the writing of a book that Mark or Deb has done, that takes time, and so there is the financial support that comes in all of those things. So, and also having been someone that's in recovery myself, I understand the expense and recognize the value of the investment of both the time and the energy and the money in doing recovery well.
Number 8, will Dr. Laaser be leading the workshop? I'll let you answer that one.
The answer to that question is, I would say it's co-leadership.
Yes, it is.
That Mark and I share the responsibilities of teaching, and most of what we teach is from resources that he has created. And there are some additional things that we do, but Mark absolutely is an active participant in the workshop. It's not a situation where he is off in his office while others are here leading. He will be teaching, leading, engaging in those conversations with you. He is available. So if part of the reason that you're coming is because of the wisdom that you've experienced in any of Mark's resources, you're going to benefit significantly by being here.
Yeah, I'm just imagining where this question comes from. And I think it comes from, there are workshops and seminars out there that have been started by, very famous Christian leaders and authors, and when they go to the workshop, they find out that it's all being led by his staff, and that person is not actually ever there, and that is not true here. I have a presence at the workshop every day. I do at least one lecture every day here at the workshop, and like I've already said, my office is right across the hall, so I'm pretty accessible.
Well, and I would even go on to say, one of the things that Mark says on a regular basis is how leading the men's workshop is one of his favorite things to do. And that absolutely comes across while you are here. It's not a chore, it's not an obligation. It really is a ministry that comes out of a passion that he has for men.
Even as we're taping this, we're set up in the room to start a workshop tomorrow morning, and I'm excited about it. It is one of the things I enjoy the most. So, number 9, what is the agenda format? Is it all lectures? 12 hours on Thursday and Friday seems like a long day.
Well, and what is true is 12 hours on any day is a long day if you're doing the same thing. And what we try to do is there is a lot of teaching that is a part of it, but we break that up. As Mark has already mentioned, there's a small group experience that is a part of this. We are sensitive to the fact that it can be a long day. So we take breaks for meals. We take breaks just during the day for snacks. And we want to break it up, and we also want to maximize your time. So that's the reason that we meet 12 hours on Thursday and Friday, and then we end at 5 o'clock on Saturday. But we want, while you are here, to get your full participation. One other thing...
I thought you were going to say money's worth.
Yeah, and we'll get your money's worth.
Given the earlier question.
And something else that is true, it kind of gets back to that accountability question. For those people that are concerned about someone coming here and having a lot of free time, that really isn't the case. And once the workshop starts, their time is pretty well occupied while they are here.
Yeah, and the agenda format is basically that roughly half the time they're going to be in this larger group, and we're going to be talking to them. lecture, sermonette. We're going to be teaching. And the rest of the time, they're going to be broken up into those smaller groups. And that's more of a process kind of a situation where they're going to be sharing some assignments that they do with their other groups. So half the time with 5 or 6 other guys, half the time in this larger group context. My experience is that the days go by really quickly, and you know, after the first hour or two, when you start to get to know the other guys, you look forward to the fellowship, whether it's of the big group or the small group.
One other thing about the format is we do take meal breaks, and as a community, as a group, we go out to eat together at restaurants that are near the center. And again, we do see the fellowship, the community of men, as being a vital part of the workshop experience. So even while you are here, you are going to have an opportunity to develop relationship with men who are on the same journey that you are on.
And that kind of, you provided some wonderful segues here today. Let me give you an information. But number 10, do you offer any aftercare? For example, phone or Skype counseling?
We do. One of the things that we believe is that for those men who have resources nearby, that face-to-face counseling is the best opportunity. However, we also believe in a recovery team approach, so there may be ways that we can support you after you've left, especially if you're going back to a part of the country where maybe there aren't a lot of resources, maybe you're from a smaller community or anonymity is an issue for you, then we do provide either phone counseling or Skype counseling. And as Mark has indicated, this is something that we're able to do and benefit from technology. And what we're wanting to do is to support you as you find care back home.
Skype counseling is quite controversial out there in the counseling field. We do both individual stuff, and then we also do, some groups that meet by Skype or Google, I think.
Right.
And I think one of the things for you to know is that some of the stuff that we might do by phone or Skype is counseling kind of / coaching. And we do understand that there are some anonymity issues to that. I think I need to say that, you know, over the years, we get hundreds of calls. Do you know a therapist or counselor in my area? Do you know a church? Do you know a group? And we have learned kind of the hard way that it's hard sometimes to recommend that stuff unless we are really personally acquainted with someone. But I think one of the advantages to being one of our alumni is that an alumni means you've been to the 3-day workshop and graduated. Graduation is, you know, kind of a loose term there, but you finished the workshop. You're now one of our alumni. I like to think about it that we remain your friend, your advocate. You can call us at times, email us at times, and we're not going to abandon you. We're going to try to respond to that. Right. And part of the workshop is to help them know how to get set up with local resources if they do in fact exist.
Absolutely.
Maybe the last thing for me to say is that it's one thing for us to sit up here and talk about all these wonderful things, and there are testimonies that are on our website about, you know, the transformational experiences that most men have when they come to the workshop. I think you'll be surprised at, while it's like an Ecclesiastes 3 thing, there'll be a lot of laughter at the workshop, and you might not think you're coming to treat such a serious topic. There'll be a lot of laughter. There'll be a lot of tears. But I know the average man, when they leave, doesn't want to leave at the end of the workshop. So I really want to thank Dr. Miller, Greg Miller here, for being a part of this brief presentation, and it's the wisdom of his leadership that's allowed us to be what we are today. So we hope you'll come and trust us with your stories, and we'll look forward to hearing them.